We are slaves under this constitution from what we've heard so far, that our sovereignties were confiscated, our assets were confiscated, our rights were including our right to life. The ports of Port Harcourt and Calabar were properties of Eastern region. The port of Lagos are supposed to be the property of Lagos, or at least Yoruba people, Western region. But on account of that exclusive list, it's now the asset of federal government. Bad enough that they make it asset of federal government. But the matter of the revenue that comes from it being collected over the heads of the owners, the ports of Lagos alone, from which Nigeria takes over 2 trillion every year, from independence to date, not one controller general of customs Yoruba origin. It's been Fulani and Fulani and Fulani again, and they're not accountable to anybody for what they do with all the monies that come from there. The MPA, go and look at what's happening with it. So the maritime assets, which are humongous, have been confiscated. The bitumen, you know, though the limestone of Benue, the cement that is coming from it, somebody hijacked the asset and began to share it out as allocations, as oil block, as all kinds of allocations to people of their part. Nobody's going to recover any asset as long as this constitution is standing. What we need to do to gain back our sovereignty, to gain back our assets, is to take down this constitution. Unfortunately for them, it is this it's our signature that is sustaining that constitution for every day. So whether we are being killed in the Middle Belt by herdsmen, or our assets have been seized in the Niger Delta by the exclusive list, or the internal security arrangement have been compromised, as we see in Yoruba land, it is that exclusive list. That's why SARS is able to kill, police is able to kill, army is able to kill, all without consequence. The people who are, embezzling the billions and billions we read every day, is any one of them in prison? Because there's impunity that is guaranteed by immunity provisions of that constitution. The same people who are supposed to be managing our commonwealth, the spare key to the treasury is handed over to the heads of the executive branch. The president in section 81 is required to go to the National Assembly to get permission to spend money, the one you call appropriation. The National Assembly is supposed to authorize that spending by passing those estimates into a law that becomes licensed to take money from Treasury. That's what we think is the case. But in section 82, to tell you the kind of fraud we are falling into, section 82 of the same constitution authorized the president, make provision in which the president can, while the National Assembly is debating the budget, the president is at liberty to run government spending money, subject to a certain dubious limit. And let me tell you what it is. They say subject that he can take up to 50% of what was approved in the year before. The way it works is that a president that knows that that provision is there just goes to put any kind of figures he likes in there. He knows, being on the ground, what to expect in respect of the headings of spending. He knows what to expect for education, for instance. He knows that he can't get more than 100 billion for education. He goes into the budget, he puts in the budget maybe 250 billion for education. Because of that provision that says he can take up to 50% of what was approved the year before, the National Assembly that is supposed to be approving that appropriation, they know themselves that there's no more than 100 billion that can come for education. But the president has come with a request of 250 billion. They begin to demand Ghana must go because they know the purpose. The purpose is not to spend any money on your education. The purpose is to create a threshold, a benchmark against which that 50% allowance can become the spare key to take everything in the treasury without recourse to the national, because they say that section 82 says that the president can continue to run government, spending all the monies he needs to spend, subject to 50% of what was approved the year before. So he uses Ghana Must Go, bribery in the National Assembly, to put the figures that will create the benchmark he requires to empty the treasury. So they take their own share up front and approve for him 250 billion. So that in the budget year concern, the budget year following, he comes and he's able to take, if he has 250 billion in the budget for what he can spend on education, he can take all the way to 125 billion. And if all that comes in is 100 billion, and he has license to take 125 billion without recourse to any recourse to National Assembly, what is left in the treasury? As it is for education, so it is for healthcare, so it is for defense, so it is for all kinds of things, all those beautiful things you hear that will happen in the budget every year. They just use Ghana Must Go to create the benchmark of what they can now go and take from without reference to that, because that section 82 removes the National Assembly, the impediment of approval by National Assembly from them. They just go to the Treasury straight and take all the way to whatever will amount to 50% of what was listed the year before. And so, as it is for the president, so it is for the governors in section 121 and 122 of that same constitution. Section 121 requires the governors to go before the state assemblies to get permission to spend money. Section 122 gives them the spare key to the treasury in the manner I've explained. They put the figure they like, and then the next year they can take up to half of that figure. It should have, in other countries, it's not so. You can't go to take the money from the treasury in the US or the UK because of the appropriation provisions. Why can't we do that? Because the managers of the enterprise, the hired management team, have now rewritten the rules. If we were the ones writing the constitution, are we going to exclude responsibility? Are we going to exclude ourselves from the benefit of the social contract like it is there? Are we going to hand over the spare key of the treasury to the president and the governors the way they have done so? Now, as that's not bad enough, they come to section 308 and grant absolute immunity to those who are, those same men who have been given the spare key to the treasury. And no matter what they do, we read every day corruption that, the people actually, 100, 200 billion, there's no figure we don't see. Every single day you see a new figure. And there's nobody in prison. Why? Because the Constitution says you cannot question them while they're in office for whatever they do. When they're leaving office, look at the kind of people that replace them. Most of the governors are replaced by people who go to prison if their tenure is probed. Check it. Either the chief of staff or secretary to government or somebody who participated in a crime while they were governor. At what point are you going to get anything different from what we have now? They don't owe you any obligation. They have the spare key to the treasury. They have immunity such you can't question them. And we're here waiting for the dividend of democracy. We are slaves under this constitution. Let it register in the head of everybody who is Nigerian listening from every part of the world. We are in a situation worse than the blacks were in apartheid constitution. And we have a set of people worse than the Boers of South Africa. We have something worse than apartheid system, because it is those people who imposed that constitution in the first place since 1979, having overthrown the constitutions we agreed upon since 1966, that have now seized power to operate that instrument they imposed, that now make them the owners of our lives, the owners of our sovereignties, the owners of our assets, and now they are bringing their people from their own kind from across Africa to eliminate the indigenous peoples of Nigeria, to resettle their own people here. They've seized everything. They now want to kill off those who will challenge them tomorrow. That's what's going on now. And it's been done in the name of the federal government of Nigeria. We saw Danjuma raise alarm about that situation when he said that those who are going around killing people and taking their land, that the federal government is in collusion with them. So the question of the constitution being responsible for what you are passing through. You come to the exclusive list, again another specific. You come to the exclusive list that has 68 items. It is in that exclusive list that oil and gas is listed as property of federal government, no longer of Ijo. That's why we saw the man who said that the oil and gas of Bayelsa belong to Jigawa. And he said, as long as we're in Nigeria. He said it up to 5 times. Meaning that they know that it is on account of being in Nigeria, by virtue of that constitution that corral us into Nigeria, that they're able to do that. It is that seizure of our sovereignty, that claim that we have submitted ourselves. That's why he said, as long as we're in Nigeria. Unfortunately for them, we have come to say, at what point did we agree to be, at what point did we have that meeting to submit our lands and our people as claimed in that preamble? That is the issue that has been raised by this force majeure that was declared on 16th of December in 2020 by the indigenous nationalities. Not one of your governors or nobody else can touch guns apart from the federal government. And since they are the ones also colluding with the people that are coming to kill, who is coming to rescue you from them? As long as that constitution is in place, the control of guns remain exclusive to federal government, and it is prohibited from you. You can't touch any gun. So no matter how much the people cry, the governors will not have any, they can't deploy any one rifle of their own. Only what the federal government, the police, the army, the DSS approve for them. And so if that federal government are being hijacked by the people who are orchestrating that onslaught against you, the constitution is directly responsible for that situation from that exclusive list that put the arms and ammunition, beyond your reach. As it is for that, it is for the electricity, for instance. Generation and transmission is declared the exclusive business of the federal government. So no matter how much oil and gas you have, no matter how much coal you have, no matter how much body of water you have to be able to generate your electricity. Like Eastern Nigeria had the Oji River power plant fired by coal that was servicing the electricity needs of Eastern Nigeria until that constitution was imposed to now make it the business of the federal government. As I speak with you, there's no single power plant in any part of Igbo land. In the 5 southeastern states, they have now broken that part into. Not one power plant. For a region that had a power plant that powered everybody up to Port Harcourt, including Trans-Amadi before AFAM came. And so it is that constitution that is responsible for the electricity you don't have. It is that constitution that is responsible for the refineries that are dead. Every one of these problems I've listed, none of them can be solved except that constitution goes down. The power to refine is now the exclusive business of federal government. And we saw Buhari telling us the other time that we now have to buy petroleum products from Niger Republic. We've been importing because that federal government is not interested in maintaining the refineries they met. They are not interested in building any one. And if that provision if that constitution goes down today and the power to license for refineries come to the owners, to the federating units, in 6 months, I was in the oil industry, I can tell how refineries, Biafra ran for 3 years, vehicles were moving. They built their own refineries. So if Biafra could do it in that limited circumstance, why can't we process crude that we have 3 million barrels to sell every day to the world? We can process the less than 10% of it we need to power, to provide petroleum products to our people. We have to import because of the exclusive list that has a refinery. There are 68 items like that, including elections. The assets are seized, the right to work those assets are seized, and we're like people tied into 68 places. 1 rope on the neck, 1 rope on the waist, 2 ropes at the hand, tied to different pillars. Where can we get to with that? That's how we got to where we are. Until that constitution, anybody who wants to get away from this enslavement imposed by this constitution must now join those who say that constitution must go down. Anybody who is not doing that, especially from the parts that are suffering more, the South and the Middle Belt. Anybody who is not doing that is standing with the enemy.